Are you a rebel? Go on, tell me. Are you, in your heart of hearts, a rebel? That's what I want to know, because if you have an inner rebel and you haven't fallen in love with it, you could be in trouble. So, hi, I am Kylie Ansett. I guide seekers of alignment to connect their head, heart, and hand so that they can live a life of purpose. And I'm coming to you from beautiful Sydney, Australia, and this is your daily dose of alignment. So, being a rebel is what we're talking about today. And yes, I think it's a little bit of a controversial topic, but it's a pretty fun one too. So tell me, do you feel a bit rebellious from time to time, or maybe a lot of the time? I'm going to put my hand up. I definitely have a rebellious streak in me, and I think most of us do to a lesser or greater degree. But here's the thing. If you have an inner rebel, hello, and you haven't actually come to terms with it, if you haven't fallen in love with it, if you haven't embraced it, then guess what? You end up acting out from a place of unconsciousness, these rebellious feelings. So the first step is to recognize if there is an aspect of you, the little cheeky, sneaky inner rebel, and if there is, how you can make friends with it and give it a space and a place in your life where it can run free and have fun and be who it wants to be, so that it doesn't become something that you unconsciously act out in the rest of your life. So it's a really interesting fine line to walk, and it's actually a lot easier than you think. So that's a good thing. It feels like it's a fine line to walk, but it's a lot, it's the way of making it happen is actually a lot simpler than you may believe. So if you feel that you've got a bit of an inner rebel there, and you may from time to time find yourself breaking rules and doing rebellious type things, like whatever your definition of rebelliousness is, whatever that is, if you find yourself in that space occasionally and going, oh, that was interesting, like I totally went against the grain there, or I did that to get a reaction, or I did that because I felt, just in that moment I had to like stick it to authority or stick it to the man or whatever it was. You've got that coming up from now and again. What often happens if you haven't embraced that aspect of yourself, you end up doing this thing, we call it cutting off your nose to spite your face. Yes, you heard of this? So what ends up happening is that you, instead of allowing that inner rebel to play free in a place that's going to be helpful to you, and that's going to allow you to be more you, and to be more free, and to be more present, and to have more fun, because that's kind of what that inner rebel wants. What it does, if you've suppressed it and you haven't recognized it, what it does is it peeks up and sticks its little head up in the most inconvenient ways, and you feel that you're acting out of this rebellious sort of place, but you end up sabotaging yourself. When you look back on it, you kind of think, why did I do that? Like, where was that coming from? So it's really interesting, right? And tell me if you can relate to this. Is this ringing any bells? Is this kind of making any sense? So here's the thing. Often when we think of being a rebel, we think of how we react to authority. So whatever you see as authority, it may be your parents, or it may be society, it may be government, it may be the police, it may be like whatever, whatever you see as being authority, right? It may be your partner, it may be your kid's school, right? Whatever it is. But what happens is that if you that aspect of yourself, and it doesn't have to be a big aspect. It may just be something that shows up from time to time. But if that aspect of yourself remains unrecognized, then what happens is you reject authority, you disrespect authority, you react against it, and all of that is actually coming from a place of fear, not from a place of empowerment. And this is what my little message for you today is, that you can, once you embrace your inner rebel, you can act in a rebellious way, in ways that empower you and those around you, and yet still completely allow you to kind of have that rebellious feeling and actions. But they're from a place of empowerment, not a place of fear. And just that distinction changes completely what you, how you show up and how you act. So here's the thing. When we talk about authority and the rebelliousness of ourselves rejecting authority, that's kind of the definition that I'm running with here. Well, we also have an inner authority. And this is where our inner rebel ends up coming to pieces, going to pieces, because what we end up doing is we actually disrespect, reject, and react against our inner authority. And that becomes a problem, because our inner authority is part of what allows us to be productive, to be creative, to do the things. It's only one of the aspects, but it's the one that our inner rebel kind of locks horns with, comes face to face with, and ends up sabotaging. So if, as I said, you embrace and allow that inner rebel place to run free in a way that you're doing it consciously instead of unconsciously, then you won't end up sabotaging your own inner authority, and you will in fact have more freedom. Now, doesn't that sound good? Yes. Thanks, Thompson. Yes, inner authority, absolutely. Your inner authority, but once you make friends with your inner rebel, you will have more freedom. Does that sound good? Because the rebellious part of ourselves wants more freedom. That's kind of what the fight is for, freedom. And so it does rebel against anything that reduces that freedom. And of course, authority feels like it's a reduction of freedom. But when you make friends with this aspect of yourself, it allows you to exercise your inner authority in the way you want to, your choice. It gives you more choices and more freedom. And at the end of the day, that is what your inner rebel wants, is more choice, more freedom, and more ability to do what it wants to do. So that is what the inner rebel sounds like, looks like, feels like. And so tell me, is there a place, a time, a way in your life that you are sensing you've got an inner rebel? Is there ways that it shows up? Is there ways that you can allow it to have its head, as they say in the horse riding community, allow it to run free, to just gallop to its heart's content, but not in a way that it's going to smash through the fence and, break down the stable and kill itself and you in the process, in a way that is going to be fun and exciting and freeing and is going to enhance your creativity rather than self-sabotage it. So just have a think about that. Have a play around with it. It's kind of an interesting concept that I've just been looking at recently and loving the possibilities that it opens up. And I hope that you feel the same way. And definitely, if you want to talk more to me about it, I'm working one-on-one with people around this very topic, because looking at our inner rebel, our inner authority, all of these things is, once we're able to bring those subconscious things to the conscious, well, we are able to live with more intention, have more alignment, have a life that plays out in a way that gives us more joy because we're not doing things, we're not having things in our subconscious kind of self-sabotage us, right? Makes sense? Okay, well, anyway, thank you so much for playing with me in the alignment sandbox. And until we meet again, know that the power is within you to do any of these things. And I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.